too.
It's delayed. Are you not live on YouTube?
No, we're up. Yeah, we're good on YouTube. What a mess. Wow. What a mess. Folks, this is all my fault. Everything that goes wrong tonight is Patriot Dad's fault, because as you can tell, I'm in a remote location, not in the Patriot Dad studio. And Nom and I just had to do a total brain dump over the last hour so I could pass off all the little widgets and buttons and controls over to him. So he's going to get to experience how much fun it is to try to talk and manage the system at the same time. So this will be a lot of fun. And honestly, he's the one that put the entire show together, because SK was super busy doing some really cool stuff today. And I was just out of pocket all day. So this is basically the NomDePlume show. And we're all here just to have a lot of fun.
We're just guests.
We're just guests in his show tonight.
Hold on. Neither one of you had really anything to do with any of this. So you guys get to do all the talking. Ready?
No.
I gave you an outline.
No.
I gave you an outline. I said, this is what we're talking about. Here's all the things. Go.
Well, I did make the title for tonight. Sorry, SK, go ahead. We can get into the title here in a minute.
Oh, no, I was just going to say I did pull up the outline tonight, so I should get bonus points for that. It's on the other screen.
She pulled up the outline. She's prepared.
Yes, you get a bonus point. You get a bonus
She's prepared. Point. So I actually wrote the title of tonight's show, and that's it. Republican Party election nightmare, or nah, not really. Nah, I don't know. We'll find out. I actually think this was definitely a referendum, but I don't think it was a referendum on the Republican Party, although I do have some major concerns with the Republican Party. But this was not a referendum on the Republican Party, at least in my opinion. This was absolutely a referendum on the disaster that the Democrat Party has allowed themselves to become. And we're going to talk about all of it. We're going to talk about all of it, because it was an absolute crap show for those guys last night. A crap show.
The numbers tell a bit of a different story, a little bit. The Democrats in these blue strongholds are big mad. Like, and when you look at the results, at the election results, and you look at the numbers, this off-cycle election had more turnout than any other off-cycle election, really, in history. And there was a lot. There was a lot of Democrats that came out to vote. So I think the numbers tell a story.
But I don't know if we can't ignore that. Sustain this, though. I don't know if it was enough to sustain it, though. I think because Republicans basically sat at home. They didn't go out and vote.
Oh yeah, Republicans sat at home in large part. In my opinion, what we saw just in overall turnout was 100% due to just the endless stream of lies that are coming from the media about what Trump is actually doing, what his policies are, what he's done around affordability, what is happening with the immigration raids and the enforcement and the detentions and the deportations, all of those things. And I mean, I've got an example of it lined up for here. I mean, it's ongoing. And most of these we call skulls full of mush simply just don't know what's true and what's not true. And they're really mad about the not true part, like really mad.
Well, because the Democrats do propaganda really, really well. It's the only thing they're good at is lying to people.
It's narrative warfare. That's literally what they call it in their meetings, when they're planning, when they're talking. They call it narrative warfare, and they want to control the narrative. Just like today, there was a lady that was arrested, and they got video of her being pulled out of a daycare. And they're like, ICE is targeting daycares, and they're going into daycares and arresting people. Well, it turns out the actual truth, and this is an elected official saying this, turns out this person got pulled over. The car was registered to somebody that's here illegally. They pulled them over, and the person driving chose not to stop and ran from the police. And when they did stop, the person ran into a daycare.
You just stole literally the
she didn't steal it. She's reading.
That's not on there.
It is. It's photo 3 and photo 3A. But you're absolutely right. That's what I saw today. That's what I saw. And it was a news outlet that posted the original post on X. They did an entire story on it, and it was a complete lie. And then you had elected representatives coming back or following it up and sharing it and pushing it out there, saying ICE is now arresting people from daycare centers. No, that illegal immigrant actually went to try to hide in a daycare center, and they were arrested and removed.
Which would happen to anyone.
Yes.
I mean, I hope the police would go in.
Is nobody on is no one on the Democrat Party concerned about an illegal immigrant running into a daycare center? Like, that's not a concern.
Well, no. I mean, they apparently, let's say, for instance, you've got a drunk driver who is being pulled over, and he takes off and starts running and goes to hide in a daycare. You've got a mass murderer or whatever. You got a drug dealer. You got anybody else that's getting pulled over by police because it was a targeted enforcement. They knew the vehicle was registered to an illegal immigrant. They were looking for that vehicle, and they found it, and they were pulling her over because you're going home. Anybody else that had done that had got stopped and took off, tried to evade police and to go and hide in a daycare center, what would you imagine any law enforcement would do? Because you have no idea what kind of threat that person is. Is that now a hostage situation inside that daycare center? Because it very easily could have been. So,
could have been. All right, let's jump into it. You got some stuff here on this outline.
Well, yeah, because I think the numbers are important, and we can't just pretend like this was an off cycle election. Nobody showed up. Republicans stayed home. Democrats were energized. I don't think that's actually true. I mean, if you look at Virginia, you had Abigail Spanberger, who, in my opinion, was just a horrifying candidate to begin with. But Winsome Sears she's got a great resume, and I think she was a great lieutenant governor. The biggest problem that she had is she distanced herself from Trump, and she did it a long time ago, and she continued to do it. And I don't know, any of these squishy rhino Republicans, I don't know what party are you looking at? This is Donald Trump's party. And if you try to distance yourself from Donald Trump, you're not going to get his base to vote for you. You're not. And by the way, all 78 million of them are his base.
This is what happens when you allow consultants to define your campaign for you. I guarantee you what happened is Winsome Sears had some rhino establishment consultant on her campaign, probably her campaign manager, guarantee it, and said, you're in a purple state. You're in a state that is being hit hard by government shutdowns and by DOGE and by ending all of this money flowing through USAID. I guarantee you some pencil neck geek on the Republican side, a consultant, said, you need to distance yourself from Donald Trump because Donald Trump doesn't sell very well in the state of Virginia. Yeah. These people do not have the best interest of the country at heart. They have the best interest of their pocketbooks, and that's it. They cannot read the tea leaves. They have no idea what's happening in this country. You have two things happening in this country, folks: MAGA and socialism, communism. That's it.
Pick which one you want.
There is no middle ground anymore. There is no moderate Republican Party. There is no moderate Democrat Party, if there ever was such a thing. There is radical left-wing, authoritarian, totalitarian communism, and you have putting the country first. That's what you have. That's it. And until these folks understand that and they start actually giving advice to their candidates about how to build a campaign around it, Republicans are not going to win in these states.
SK, what say you?
She looks annoyed with it all.
Yes, I am extremely annoyed with all of it. Extremely. And every single time we get ready to go live, there's always some huge bombshell post that ends up posting right after we go live. And then I get all freaked out. So that's also happening.
Should we go look at that real quick?
No, we should.
I don't know. I have no idea what it says. I was trying to look it up while you guys were talking, and if I'm reading and people are talking, I don't hear what you're saying.
Okay, you keep reading, SK. Tell us if we need to stop the podcast to go and figure out what the bombshell is, because we know what she's talking about.
No,
you guys
can
don't.
I ask everybody that's watching to please like the stream that you're watching, whether it's Rumble, X, YouTube, whatever it is, share it, do all the things, and also follow the Patriot Source Podcast X account because we got to grow it. It's sad.
Well, we have to promote it.
Yeah, we do. By getting the live out there.
That's fine.
So you just did. So let's talk about the numbers, right? What actually happened with Spanberger and Winsome Sears. So this was actually a record off-year election turnout. 4.02 million people showed up to vote. Abigail Spanberger got 57.5% of the vote, whereas in 2021, we had, what's his name? Youngkin won that. And the reason Youngkin and Earl Sears won it was because Democrats were coming off their hangover, off their high from Biden winning, and they stayed home and they thought, we've got this. And then we did the exact same thing this time. However, Virginia goes for Kamala Harris by 6 points, 2024, a year ago. Now it looks like it's about 15 points. So that's a pretty large swing. But you gain about 9 points in what they did a year ago. That's pretty important. What's more, I think the biggest story of the night, though, is not necessarily Abigail Spanberger, because, whatever, top of the ticket, that wasn't the real scandal was it? The real scandal was Jay Jones, right? The real scandal was Jay Jones. So what we learned from the election in Virginia last night, and this is a theme that I think carries all the way across the country. What we learned in the election in Virginia last night was Virginia Democrats especially are perfectly fine with electing Democrats that openly say, let's kill Republicans. And they're perfectly fine when the person at the top of the ticket doesn't have a problem with it. So the governor in Virginia elect and the attorney general and elect in Virginia are going to be like, hey, if you kill Republicans, maybe we actually don't even need to arrest you, right? I mean, why would the AG arrest anybody if you're killing Republicans? He actually supports it. Yeah.
Why would they take seriously this reality that we live in now, where political violence is now the new leverage that the Democrat Party brings to the table? Why would they take seriously the requirement of a chief law enforcement officer in a state to prosecute people who are threatening violence against their political opponents when he, in fact, did it himself? Exactly. I don't think people understand the climate that is going to be created in Virginia when you have an attorney general. Sorry, SK, go ahead.
No, you finish. I thought you were done.
I was going to say, when you have an attorney general who not only seems to be okay with it, but actively engaged in political violent rhetoric, threatening to assassinate his political opponent, that it rolls from the top down. You are going to see increased political violence in the state of Virginia now, because a bunch of people cared more about sticking it in the thumb of the American people than it did actually putting people with integrity at the top of the ticket. It's insane what happened in Virginia. Absolute insanity.
It's terrifying. It's terrifying that this is acceptable behavior in the United States of America. It is terrifying that people are supporting this in any way, shape, or form. It's terrifying that people are being arrested. Democrat states, blue cities have been arresting people 20, 30, 40, 100 times and just releasing them, cashless bail. And now we have a situation where they're encouraging political violence and they're just letting people out of jail. What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah. So you can imagine how cashless bail in Virginia is going to look like at the state level. This is now statewide in Virginia.
That's right. So over on the Rumble channel, Smitty, and I totally agree, said early voting elected Jay Jones. Folks, that is absolutely spot on. How many Democrat voters and maybe some squishy Republicans voted for Jay Jones before they ever found out about this scandal? How many? Did he win this election because people didn't even know about this? I don't know how long Virginia's early voting is, but if it's anything like the state I'm in, it's like 40 some days. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. It was like 45 days. If the exit polls were correct, they had Mayeras or whatever his name is winning in the exit polls. So that would tell me that, early voting for 6 weeks is how he pulled this off.
They did this on purpose. This 2020 is going to be revisited, hopefully, and information and evidence and things will start coming out. This was a coordinated effort. They changed the way that we run our elections in 2020 using the excuse of this terrible virus. We didn't even change the way we vote during the Civil War. We didn't change the way we voted during the Spanish flu. We've never done this before. And then out of nowhere, we change everything about our elections over a novel virus.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So let's move this along. So what's the result of that, right? Of you've got the top law enforcement officer in the state of Virginia. Well, here's the result of it. So I would like to introduce you all to Sabrina Morris. Sabrina Morris is a man pretending to be a woman. Sabrina Morris is a teacher at George Washington High School, which I believe is in Danville, Virginia. And this is what Sabrina Morris posted today. Okay. What's interesting about what she posted, he posted, is now that you've got Abigail Spanberger back up there at the top of the ticket, she's going to be the governor, and she's all about all the trans things. She's all about the boys and girls sports. She's all about the boys and girls locker rooms and girls bathrooms. So we had what's her face over there? I can't even remember her name now. This is what she posted. He posted today. Put the pronouns back in the email with a gun to the back of your head.
Not just any gun, a rainbow gun.
Yeah, a rainbow gun. So of course, why would anybody in Virginia have a problem with that when you've got the attorney general that is, getting ready to walk into office, who openly admits that, yeah, I'd like to do that stuff too.
It's much deeper than that. I think we have a massive problem in this country with the way women are voting. I have to ask a question. Do women actually not want men in the bathroom? Because Abigail Spanberger was very clear that she is going to reverse Youngkin's policies on transgender men in the bathroom. She was clear about that.
You have to understand. Oh, sorry.
She was clear about that. And if you look at the numbers, I don't have them in front of me now. Maybe you do. But women overwhelmingly supported Spanberger versus Winsome Sears. Overwhelmingly, it was like 60-30 or something like that.
It was more than 60% actually. Yeah.
So ladies, I have a question for you. Are you okay with women being in your bathroom? Because the women in Virginia seem to be perfectly fine with it.
Yeah. No, they must be. They must be.
The situation we have here, I've debated these women countless times on TikTok, and the modern feminists, they are convinced that you're not accepting, you're not empathetic, you're not caring, you're not all the things that women are supposed to be if you do not want men dressed as women in your bathroom or your locker room or wherever with your children, like the YMCA in Kansas City, where the 7-year-old got fully exposed to male genitalia in her face in the locker room at the YMCA. And the YMCA was like, no, our policy is that people that identify as female are allowed to go in the dressing room. And that's our policy. They didn't even care. Nothing happened. They didn't care. But I always tell them, you guys are the same ones that are talking about the patriarchy and, down with the patriarchy and all of this stuff. But at the same time,
choose the bear.
Yeah, right. Exactly. But at the same time, these same people are allowing literal biological men to take over all of our spaces, everything that our grandparents fought for, and getting all of the rights that we have today. Title IX, prior to the implementation of Title IX, there were like 200 and something thousand girls in school sports. And after the implementation of Title IX in like 2011 or 2013, there were 3.2 million girls in school sports. It opened the door for women to enter into all sorts of degree programs, including being doctors. Less than 5% of medical school students were women prior to the implementation of Title IX. And today it's like 52% are women. This is what opened the door. And then you have the Biden administration, through abuse of power, changing Title IX from a sex-based law to a gender identity-based law. And what I tell all these feminists is you are throwing away all of the decades of work that our grandparents, if some people are young enough, it's their great-grandparents, our parents. I mean, my mom was going to high school and college when Title IX was being implemented. She told me that girls used to go to college to be secretaries. I was like, what do you need a degree to be a like what? Yep. That's really like when you were a female going to college, you had a handful of professions you could choose from, being a teacher, being a secretary. There weren't very many. You couldn't go to a college and say, I want to be an engineer or I want to be a doctor. They would be like, yeah, okay. Title IX is what opened the door for that. So that patriarchy that they all hate and want to bring down, They are literally allowing to take over everything that we have and all of our spaces, our scholarships, our places on sports teams, all of these things. And it pisses me off. And women, for the record, women are not a costume. Putting on makeup and wearing a dress and a wig or growing your hair out or whatever doesn't make you a woman. That's not what is a woman. It's not even close.
That's right. I think above anything else, we learned a lot last night about the modern liberal and how hypocritical and how much frauds these people really are. We've been hearing for years about feminism from the left, and they literally just pissed it down the drain last night. We've also been hearing for years about racial equality and the demands to vote for the first African-American in whatever position you have an opportunity to vote for that person. And they would have had the first Black female governor in the state of Virginia. And instead,
in the entire country.
In the entire country. And instead, they chose the deep state operative of Abigail Spanberger, who actually had racists in her campaign, carrying racist signs about putting people back in the days where they had different countertops they had to sit in. They couldn't drink from the same water fountains. Like, that's the stuff that was being shown at her rallies by her supporters, by people who were paid by her campaign and other people to be there. And the left chose her. Like, this was definitely a referendum last night, folks, but it wasn't a referendum on the Republicans or a referendum on Donald Trump. It was a referendum on the current state of the Democrat Party. And that is what the Democrat Party in Virginia looks like today.
And I would love to point out my favorite part about the Spanberger and the Winsome Sears race is that Obama, of all people, endorsed Spanberger.
So did the NCAA.
NAACP.
NAACP.
Black female Republican. That's how much they hate Republicans. Yeah. All these people that champion diversity and all that, that's bullshit. It's all bullshit. It doesn't mean anything. They're lying to you. They only care about power, however they can get it.
Yep. No, I think what you just said, SK, it is all bullshit. And the NAACP just proved it. The NAACP is the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, not the advancement of white liberals over the black woman. Unless you're a Republican. Unless you're a Republican. There was another dynamic that played out, and I think it was actually the biggest part of the dynamic, and it was some of the richest zip codes in America are in Northern Virginia surrounding Washington, D.C. And where do they get all of their money from? They get it from the federal government, from taxpayers, through NGOs and their big, cushy, high-paying jobs and their K Street lobbying and their big lawyering jobs and all of those things. And what was President Trump trying to do?
That's the nail on the head right there.
That's what it was. These people that did this, these people that came out were big mad. And by the way, do you know how much it costs to buy a house in Northern Virginia? These are millionaires. These are hundreds and thousands of millionaires that are subsidized by U.S. taxpayers, and they've gotten rich as fuck doing it. And they got big mad because the spigot was starting to slowly be closed on them. That's all this was. At least
you need to tell me that the Democrat Party, at least in Virginia and probably across the entire country, has turned into a party for the rich elitists.
Well, we already
Is that what you're trying to tell me?
We already know that.
That's
They were dressing up as Luigi Mangione and cheering for what he did with the United Healthcare CEO. And then the Democrats shut down the government and held people's SNAP benefits hostage in order to get more government subsidies for that same company that they proclaim to not like. When the two biggest people that accept donations from that exact industry is literally Schumer, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren. Like, what? You guys?
That's right.
It is the hypocrisy to me is absolutely unbelievable. And just so you're aware, those people that Nom was just talking about that are worth so much money and get most of their money from the government were just elected in Virginia, including Scamberger, who's literal CIA, and her husband, who is a literal Defense Department contractor getting government dollars for his job, for his government contracts.
That's right. That's right.
All right. Well, so that's a disaster. I'm not sure there was much that any Republican could have done under those conditions, especially in Virginia. Virginians, especially in Northern Virginia, it seems like the richer you are as a Democrat, the more interested in transhumanism and posthumanism you actually are. I don't understand this. They think it's like, yeah, I know why you're smiling, because you know what I just watched, don't you?
I do.
You know,
I do. Yeah, there's a reason for it, folks.
Yes,
another show, but there's a reason why.
I watched that. I listened to that entire 8-hour thing. By the way, it's fantastic.
I'm telling you, it's fantastic. By the way, folks, if you guys haven't watched, this is totally off topic, but it ties exactly into what Nom was just saying. I will promote this guy because I love his content, but there is a YouTube channel. I think he has a Rumble channel as well. His name is Tim Alberino. He's kind of a modern day Indiana Jones, but he wrote a book a number of years ago called Birthright. And if you're interested in an interesting perspective on how we are being pushed into a post-human, transhumanist world, and Nom is exactly right, go watch it. Go listen to, he's got like an 8-hour series and interviews that he did on the book that he wrote. And it talks about this post-humanism, transhuman world that a lot of people, particularly on the left, seem to be wanting to push us to. There's a reason why transgenderism is the shiny object for them, because it is the bridge to get us to that next stage.
Yeah, you could essentially, they're playing God. They're trying to play God with themselves.
That's right.
I don't know how you listened to that whole thing. I tried really hard.
It's fascinating.
It's interesting stuff. But anyway, go check it out. Tim Alberino on YouTube, Birthright, fantastic stuff. Nonetheless, let's move on.
So, okay. So then we had New Jersey, right? And I mean, guys, again, this is another Democrat stronghold, though Trump did make inroads in 2024. But Kamala won that by 6 points again. This one, however, with Mikey Sherrill and Jack Ciattarelli, she won 56.8% of the vote. He won 43% of the vote. So the polls here going into the race and the exit polls were much, much tighter than this says. So you got what's that? You got about a 13 point difference. So they gained about 7 points in New Jersey there. And if you're watching any of the coverage last night, the exit polling, the thing that really blew my mind about New Jersey were, do you guys know what the top 2 issues for voters in New Jersey were?
Yeah, I do.
What?
High taxes and affordability.
Yeah. Imagine saying my top 2 issues are high taxes and affordability. So let's go ahead and vote for another Democrat who's given us high taxes and unaffordability. I just don't think these people can't, they can't think their way through any of this.
No, they don't think about it. I think another problem in New Jersey that we're going to need to explore is there was a lot of instances of disruption of same-day elections that took place. I think there was a couple bomb threats that were called in to New Jersey polling places. There was machines that were down. It seems like the same strategy, the same tactics we saw in 2020 playing out again. Get as many of your Democrat voters out to vote early. Republicans were not really encouraged to go do that, and then disrupt as much as you possibly can on game day. There's a solution for this, folks. The solution has to be the complete eradication of early voting entirely. We need to get to a system of single day paper ballot voting to eliminate all the possibilities of disruptions, slowing the process down, or disenfranchising people who go out to vote but don't have the time to wait, because that's what they're doing. That's what they used last night in New Jersey. I personally think that's the reason why you saw an increase in the spread, but it wasn't going to solve the problem. New Jersey has an 850,000 registration difference between Democrats and Republicans. New Jersey continues to be like Lucy and the football to Republicans. For some reason, we've gotten it in our minds that we can actually win that state. And there's only one person that really even has a chance of winning the state of New Jersey, and it's Donald Trump himself. If he's not on the ballot, it's not going to happen, particularly with the Republicans that they put on the tickets in these blue states. It is not going to happen. It's just not. It's that simple. I mean, you're talking about a candidate in New Jersey who was caught in a cheating scandal coming out of the Naval Academy. She was on a major New York City radio show and basically busted for making $7 million in insider trading trades in her elected position in Congress. And they still voted for her. They still voted for her.
Martha Stewart go to federal prison for that?
Yeah,
you're allowed to do
it. That's how James Comey made his career.
Wait,
but listen,
did that guy with the Nazi tattoo win?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't look at that actually. The guy up in New England with the Nazi tattoo.
Remember what
I don't know. We need to check on that. But let's listen. I think we just need to sort of like disabuse ourselves of the notion that any of these things that like should be disqualifiers are actually disqualifiers to Democrats. Like, but
yeah,
they're just not. They won't be. So they're going to put up whatever dirtbag they can find, as long as they think that dirtbag can get shoved across the finish line. I mean, we watched them do it with Joe Biden. We've watched them do it with how many people for how long. They just don't care. The polls told you in Virginia, Jay Jones, 70% of Democrats. Actually, when it first happened, 92% of Democrats said, no, it's not disqualifying. I think over time, the messaging kind of started to chip away at that. But the day after those texts came out, Democrats were like, we don't care. We want to kill them. Fucking kill Republicans. Do it.
That's right. That's right.
So
New Jersey is a pipe dream for Republicans, and we're just gonna have to understand that.
Yeah, it's kind of upsets me a little bit because down in the comments I see Scott Pressler, that poor guy, worked and works. Does anybody know if he actually gets assistance from the RNC to do the things that he's doing?
I think he does get some. I think he does get some funding from the RNC, or at least some of the donors to the RNC. It's probably an interesting thing to take a look at.
Yeah, because I mean, we wouldn't have won Pennsylvania without him, and good for him. He tries.
Yeah, but that's also one of the huge differences between the Democrat Party and the Republican Party. The Republican Party is full of genuine support and people that will do what we do, doing this for $0 because we actually care and we actually believe in what it is that we're saying. And the other side of the aisle is paying people and putting huge amounts of money behind candidates and huge amounts of money behind protests and door knocking campaigns and texting and calling and all the things. They have the most organized, highly funded. This is one of the things that I was into today as well. So highly funded, so highly organized. I mean, you can log onto a website and just put your information out there as an organization and people will throw money at you. It's
right.
Unbelievable. Tens of thousands of organizations in this ecosystem working
and billions and billions and billions of dollars. Yeah.
Yep. Working together for the same purpose. And the purpose is not at all constitutional.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and we aren't going to like it, but we're not going to get to that one just yet. I know what everybody wants to hear. They want to hear about our thoughts about Maslami, over Zoran Maslami down there in New York City. But there's more, right? Because we need to talk about California Prop 50. I mean, there's 2-to-1 ratio of Democrats in California to Republicans, and we know that this was just a partisan gerrymandering job. And has Gavin Newsom not found a way to win whatever election that he wants to be won in that state? I mean, that was a foregone conclusion, I think.
Did anybody stay up late enough last night to watch Governor Newsom's acceptance speech?
No.
All right. So I was watching Fox News last night. I don't watch a lot of cable news at all anymore, but when I'm in remote locations, sometimes I'll just throw it on in the background. I don't really watch a lot of TV ever, but sometimes I'll throw it on the background. And I actually heard live Zoran Maslami's acceptance speech. And then it immediately went over to Gavin Newsom's acceptance speech. And immediately the thing that came to mind was Gavin Newsom is no Zoran Mamdani. Because the juxtaposition between those two, the way they communicate, the substance of what they had to say, the fact that Gavin Newsom, when he lies, everybody on the planet knows that he's lying right through his teeth. It was one of the most pathetic acceptance speeches I've ever heard. He immediately comes out and says that Donald Trump is planning to steal the 2026 election. And then he went on to detail exactly how he and the Democrat Party are planning to steal the 2026 election by redistricting and all these schemes and violating their state constitutions. And the problem that Gavin Newsom has, and I think he realizes it now, is that he opened a can of worms that they may not be able to ever recover from. Because if he just would have left well enough alone, the state of Texas only entered into their redistricting because they were required to, because their districts violated federal law. And the Department of Justice said, you have to take another look at these. And because Gavin Newsom thinks that he's going to run for president and win, and by the way, I guarantee you, he doesn't even make, I bet you he doesn't even make it halfway through the primary. And I'll prove it to you here in a second. He was so bad last night that I think his political career ended with that acceptance speech that he gave last night, because the American people on the left, the lunatics that are controlling the Democrat Party, their voters watched Maslany give their speech, and then they watched Gavin Newsom give his speech. Who do you think that they're going to support in the next campaign for the 2028 president? It may not be Maslany, but it's going to be whoever Maslany tells them to vote for. That's where the energy of their party is.
AOC, yeah. No, because Gavin Newsom's a greasy scumbag, and everybody that looks at him knows it. And then he talks, and it's confirmed that he's just a total freaking greaseball.
Don't you have to be born in the United States to be the president?
A natural born. Yeah, yes. You do have to be a natural born citizen.
Yeah, I'm not saying he's going to run for president. Whoever he's going to support is going to be the candidate for the Democrat Party.
The Democrats are going to have a really hard time finding a natural born citizen to represent them. Just saying.
No, I agree with that. So I mean, but you bring up an interesting point, because all day today, because I actually have two videos, one on each of my accounts that are doing pretty well, and it's about the results of the election last night. And every leftist that you can find, blue talks all over the place. Yeah, but we flipped 3 seats in Mississippi. Did you guys know 3 seats flipped in the Mississippi Senate last night?
Nope.
They did.
Nope.
Mississippi, and I just found this out too, and I live down here now. Mississippi, for 13 years, Republicans have had a supermajority in the Senate. So they could actually write constitutional amendments without the Democrats even being involved, right? So, but no more, because Democrats flipped 3 seats down in the Mississippi Senate, except they didn't actually flip 3 seats. The same thing that happened to Texas happened to Mississippi, is they were required by a federal district court to redraw their Senate maps because they said that they were racially unconstitutional. So they created 2 brand new majority black districts in Mississippi, and Democrats won both of those. So what's going to happen, SK? Because this is kind of your area. What happens when the case that's working its way through the Supreme Court now, challenging the Voter Rights Act for majority minority districts, that's basically going to blow that entire thing up, especially what Texas just went through? What happens then? Do they have to redraw these things again?
Yeah, because like what happened in Florida. Florida had a 200-mile long weird shaped district where because they wanted to encompass 2 city centers. I think it was Jacksonville and something else. The Florida Supreme Court ruled that it was unconstitutional because they were outright saying, we're drawing these lines based on race, and we want this, race of people majority in this district, and that's why it was shaped that way. And the Florida Supreme Court said that's unconstitutional. You can't draw lines based on race. And
Mississippi was forced to by a federal district court who said you have to create additional majority black
not a
districts.
District court. I also have a PDF from this planning from 2019, 2018. this whole redistricting thing was part of the Democrats' plan. The document's actually titled expanding the legislature, and they want to expand the legislature so much that Republicans don't have a chance of getting the majority ever.
Yep. Okay. So that's what happened. So everybody's all excited that the supermajority and down here in Mississippi was broken, but it was broken by a federal district court judge, essentially.
That's right.
The next one, Texas. So this is a little bit of good news, right? Because we've been talking about, Democrats' strongholds up to this point. These are Democrats showed up in places where Democrats live, a lot of them, and they got their asses off their couches and they came out and they voted. Good for them. Bravo. You win a cookie. In Texas, a hell of a lot of Republicans got out and voted in Texas for two specific initiatives. The first one, where are we? Parental rights. So essentially a constitutional amendment that enshrined parental rights in education and healthcare and all of those things won 69% of the vote.
Can I just interrupt you for a second? The fact that we even have to go to the Constitution to enshrine what we have always known, that parents have parental rights over their kids, is one of the most infuriating things I have ever heard.
Well, it takes a village, Patriot Dad. It takes a village. Don't you know? And that village actually has more rights. That village has more rights to your child than you do, because the village is all of us, and we're all the village.
Because they are, I know it's kind of a joke at this point in time to talk about education and indoctrination and those types of things. But again, with all this research and the deep dives that I've been doing, you need to look into social emotional learning and those types of things, because that's exactly what they've been doing. And that's exactly how they've gotten our society to where it is today. And it's all, again, a part of their plan.
That's right.
It is terrifying what it is that these people do and want to do to your children.
That's right.
Well, we know they want to trans them. So they want to mutilate their genitals. They want to put them on hormone blockers and chemically castrate them. That's what they want to do to your kids. So Texas came out, a bunch of Republicans in Texas said, hell no, 69% majority of the vote. The other one, the big one, was basically constitutional voter ID. So the Texas Constitution now has an amendment in there that requires explicit ban on non-citizens voting, and you have to provide an ID to prove and papers that you're a citizen. 72% is how many people came out and voted for that. So it's not all bad news, folks. It's not.
No.
In places where Republicans actually congregate and do Republican things, they came out and they did Republican things.
And in Arizona, didn't they recall somebody?
They did. They recalled a trustee, some Maricopa County person. Yep.
Folks, this is the learning lesson from last night. I know that the media and the propagandists and the 1630 course media liars, they want you to believe that this was a blue wave. If the Republican Party isn't paying attention, what this exposed is very simple. Republican voters, particularly MAGA, who controls the Republican Party now, the base, aren't going to get off their ass unless you start doing the things that we expect you to do. We're going to get off our ass and go vote for the things that we voted for already. We're going to go vote for things that we care about. We voted for an agenda a year ago when Donald Trump was on the ballot, a very specific agenda that focuses on the country first. It focuses on affordability. It focuses on setting right the things that were done wrong to the American people over the prior 4 years, and making sure our elections are clean and fair and secure. And if you're not going to do those things, we're not going to vote for you. It's that simple. It's that simple. And that's what happened last night. If you run candidates that are going to run away from Donald Trump and MAGA and the agenda that we voted for, we're not voting for you. If you put policy ideas on the table that aren't focused on America first and what helps the American people and deals with the affordability crisis that we have and secures our elections, we're not voting for you. I don't know how much more clear it needs to be. That's exactly what happened last night. This was not a blue wave. This is Republicans saying, yeah, I don't see anything on your agenda that I care about. I'm not voting for another rhino Republican. I'm not doing it. It's pretty simple, folks.
It's 100%. It's absolutely simple. It's absolutely right.
Can we get to the Maslami in New York now?
Can I say one thing really quick?
Yeah.
My favorite people in the comments on YouTube, Patriotic Girl 74, said that the election with the Nazi tattoo guy, Graham Plattner, Maine, I think, isn't until 2026. My bad, because I completely that. I don't know why.
He's running for the Senate seat, and there's a primary, I think, that'll play out early 2026, and then maybe he'll be the Democrat candidate in the Senate race against Steve Collins.
Thank you, Patriot Girl or Patriotic Girl.
All right, let's get into Maslami, because this was a freaking disaster. Last night.
These are your clips, so you're narrating. Yeah, these are your clips.
All right, I want to set this up. We have a couple clips coming up. For those of you who didn't have a chance to watch his acceptance speech last night, it was one of the most grotesque things I've ever seen in the political world. One of the most disgusting displays of hubris and anti-American sentiment I have ever seen. Horrifying. But the question that I have for everybody is, does he actually think that challenging Donald Trump the way he did last night is going to work well for him? Is that what this guy thinks is going to happen? Play the clip.
Hold on, one last thing, because it's interesting. Actually, I'll get to it.
Since I know you're watching, I have 4 words for you. Turn the volume up.
Listen to that. Did you hear that? That's where the energy in the Democrat Party is right there. That's it, right there. Behind a guy that they think has the gravitas to be able to stand toe-to-toe to Donald Trump. That's all they cared about.
He has no idea what he's getting into at all.
No clue
by the way,
at all.
Did you guys see that Chuck Schumer, Democrats were supposed to have a press conference today, and Chuck Schumer was late getting out there? So Bernie Sanders, because he's very emboldened right now, very emboldened, he marched out there and he took the podium and he started talking in the place of Chuck Schumer, because Chuck Schumer wasn't there on time. He's like, you know what? This is my party now. This is my party now. It's not your party anymore, Chucky. Chucky, you're on your way out. I know you thought that you were shutting the government down to save your ass from the Maslamis of the world. They don't care. You're still gone. You're still out.
Maslami got on stage and immediately announced himself as the Democratic Socialist.
Yeah, and a Muslim. Yeah, he did. He did that.
The last time a Muslim was elected into a mayor's position in a major national city like New York City, does anyone have a sense of what happened in that place? You guys see what's happened to London since they elected their mayor, whatever the hell his name is. The place Sadiq Khan has turned into a shithole.
Yeah,
an absolute shithole. All right, play the other one from.
Get in trouble.
Huh?
You're gonna get in trouble.
Why? Oh, because I said the S word? Yeah, my wife's gonna be mad. I said the S word. I'm allowed to say it once in a while. All right, go ahead. Next one.
President Trump, when I say this, to get to any of us, you will have to get through all of us. When we enter City Hall.
We're going to stop right there for a second. I'm trying to think of the right way to say this. Excuse me there, Mr. Maslami. Do you think President Trump is at all concerned that he's going to have to get through all of you? Have you gotten the sense from him that he's at all nervous about having to go through you? Have you gotten that sense before?
I think the question that you need to ask yourself is, who is us that he's referring to?
Well, I think we know who that is.
Yes, we do. And we're going to get to that in a minute.
I heard somebody ask a really, really important question today, and I don't remember who it was. So if I would give you credit for it, or I would give you credit for it if I could remember. Everyone continues to talk about all the people that are going to be fleeing New York City. And I think last night I heard a stat that about 10% of New York City voters and folks that live in the 5 boroughs are already planning to leave and are making plans to do so. The better question is not who's leaving, but who's coming to New York City. Okay, let's look at this. All right, so this is good. Put this on.
This is the answer. This is the answer to the question that you were just getting ready to ask, because this is how the vote broke for Maslami yesterday. Okay, if you were born in New York City, only 38% of you voted for Maslami. The other 61% voted for either Cuomo or for Sliwa. If you have been in New York City, if you were an immigrant to New York City and you've been in the city less than 5 years, 85% of you voted for Maslami. 85% of immigrants in that city for less than 5 years voted for the communist, the Islamo-fascist.
Where's
immigrants.
That article?
Mass immigration to New York City is what created Maslami.
Where's that article that Bongino used to refer to all the time? I think it was a Politico article, and I'll have to find it. Maybe we can pull it up next time.
It's a New York Times article.
New York Times article.
And it said, yes, we can replace them.
Yes, we can replace them.
Yeah,
folks,
2012
what you saw happen in New York City is just a microcosm of what the entire Biden administration was attempting to do through their open border policy. Replace them. They didn't have the right voters that they wanted in New York City because law enforcement changed in the 90s to a broken windows approach, which basically says that if you arrest the person who jumps the turnstiles in the subway, you will most likely be arresting the person who commits rape and murder and all that stuff, and you'll clean up the streets that way. It was the most effective policing style known to man because it works. Mm-hmm. And they didn't like it. So instead, because there were still a lot of voters in New York City who experienced the Giuliani years and they experienced the years prior, they weren't going back to that. So they replaced them. They replaced
them. And you know who they replaced them with? Well, we just saw that that graphic, who replaced them, and you saw who they voted for, right? This is who they replaced them with.
This is in vain, that this is all jihad, that this is all ibadah, and that this is all counted for by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so the conversation of doxing, the conversation of getting arrested and suspended, I think it's time for Muslims to start to say, all right, so what? Do what you want. I'm gonna do what I gotta do, because it's about time to do that. And I know everybody has their own families and has an education and everything. If you get suspended, if you get doxxed, because it's bound to happen when you're doing a righteous cause and when you're doing something for the sake of Allah here in the West, it will never, ever be in vain. And the true believer does not fear that, because the true believer knows that
Am I the only one that notices? Hold on, I have to say this. Am I the only one that notices the switch between the true believer Muslim accent to the ghetto accent when she's talking tough? Am I the only one that noticed that?
No, well, you would, because that was an intern on the Maslami campaign, right? That was an intern.
Oh,
yeah, that wasn't just some random clip. That girl is an intern on Maslami's campaign.
You're gonna have to send me her name, because I guarantee you I know exactly the pipeline that she's a part of.
Yeah,
I will find it.
Research that one.
I have it somewhere.
So an intern on the Maslami campaign is doing a video presenting to her followers that it's now okay for Muslims just to do whatever the hell they want to do. Is that
it's not okay. It's not okay. It's
expected.
It's time, because we know how this works. We know how this plan works. When you start to immigrate, when you're the minority, you get on the welfare rolls and you continue to grow and breed. And then as you get to a certain population level, then you start to run for office, and then you start to interject yourself into politics, and you start to create your enclaves big enough. And then once you start to take a foothold in the politics
of our trial to conquer Europe by force failed. They did something wrong, very wrong. They tried for many years to conquer Europe through wars, only wars.
This is the soft Islamic conquest of the West. Basically, what the Islamic and again, I'm an Orthodox Muslim. What we couldn't do in the last, say, 20 years, now the West is doing it for us for free and even paying for it.
Allah permitted them to live off the infidel while they are subduing them. So it had sort of a parasitic type of attitude where they can live off of the host country, where their goal is to eventually eradicate the host culture and supplant it with Islam.
Well, what's getting ready to happen in New York City is going to be an epic disaster for New York City for a host of reasons. And I asked this question earlier, and just let me kind of bake this for a second. The question is not who's going to be leaving New York City, but the question is who's going to be coming to New York City. New York City is now going to be the hotbed for all of the Islamo-fascists, all of the alphabet people who think they have an ally and an advocate in town, in the city hall, all of the communists and the socialists, and they're all going to be moving into the city thinking that this is going to be their utopia. And yet the people that are in charge are the ones who are going to throw them off of the rooftops the first chance they get.
Yep.
That's what's going to happen, folks. All of you alphabet people who are going to show up in New York City thinking you have an ally there, you have no idea. No idea. What you just watched play out in New York City is exactly what the Ayatollah Khomeini did to come to power in Iran back in the 1970s. He pulled together all of these disparate, dissatisfied, dysfunctional organizations like the radical feminist groups, the unions, all of the people that you saw MAMDANI pull together. The Ayatollah did the exact same thing. And the minute he came into power, he immediately put the women in burqas, told them they couldn't go to school anymore, and they murdered people that lived alternate lifestyles.
Chickens for KFC, I tell you. That's exactly what it is. Chickens for KFC. But also, this is the Democrat Party. This is the color revolution. This is what the Democrat Party is doing, and they will align with whoever they think can advance their agenda. And right now, that's who can advance the agenda. This is the extreme part of the Democrat Party. He ran as a Democrat socialist, didn't he?
Admittedly.
PSA wasn't PSA on the ticket.
Admittedly, yes.
And last night in his acceptance speech, he boldly professed himself as a democratic socialist.
Yep, there you go. So is the
so here's the question.
Color revolution right here.
No, I agree. So, but here's the really important question, right? So, how's he going to pay for all this? Right? How's he going to pay for this?
Well, he was
70% of my income above $2 million in tax. Yes. Do you think next dollar should be taxed at 70%? Okay, so if that's the deal, you know what I would do? Once my income got to $2 million, I would stop working for the year. I would furlough my employees and say, you know what? I've made my limit. I'm not going to work for 30 cents on the dollar. I'm playing golf. I'm going fishing. I'll see you next February. How about that? How come that didn't apply in the 1970s and 1960s? Because nobody paid those taxes back then. You know how many? I would much rather. Because no one.
And that is the biggest. Sorry, SK, go ahead.
They don't understand the difference between tax rate, marginal tax rate. They don't understand what they're talking. They don't understand.
Folks, when there was a 92% tax rate on the richest, wealthiest Americans in the country, you realize that the effective tax rate that any of those people paid was less than 8%. Less than 8%.
No, they don't understand that. Just ask.
But they
this
need
lady.
to.
Yeah, they don't. They think it's here.
Is MAMDANI'S best policy?
Childcare for all.
What's he going to do for childcare?
He's going to make it available for everyone.
How's he going to do that?
He has a plan in terms of taxing and saving money, and I think will help everyone.
What is the plan, though?
What is the plan?
Yeah. You're out here campaigning for him, right? What's the plan?
You mean how is he going to fund that? There will be childcare for.
But how do you achieve that?
Well, we've achieved it for pre-K for 3s, and you just expand it so that it's.
How do you expand it?
Well, you use the schools, you use existing facilities, and you use existing tax base and money that's being wasted on consultants to pay for it.
I still don't understand, like, how that. Where does the money come from?
Well, he's explained that over and over. So there's going to be there's wasted money, and
where can I find?
So that, as you can imagine, that goes on. But that's where I would bet 98% of everyone who voted for Maslami last night, that right there is their level of understanding of what it means to be a socialist, right? That's what they think a socialist is, which is to say they don't actually have any fucking idea what a socialist is.
Who's going to tell her about seizing means of production, and who's going to tell her?
Oh, that's an interesting story.
Well, hold on before you do this. Hey, folks, those of you guys that think socialism is such a great idea, you realize that you are the means of production, right? So when Mamdani promises to give free or more affordable healthcare or free or more affordable childcare, you realize that is you that are going to be doing it for free.
Like this lady here, she can't believe how lucky she got with Zoran's election, because her baby boy is going to enter daycare in March, just in time for it to be free once Zoran seizes the means of production.
You are the means of production. You are the means of production.
The same people that were upset because their SNAP benefits weren't there when they wanted them to be there because they were being held hostage by the government are the same people that are willingly signing up to being dependent on the federal government so that they can then hold their
SK, that's old socialism. That's old socialism. That's not the new democratic socialism. The new democratic socialism, I actually don't know the difference. Can someone explain to me what the difference is?
Well, the difference is they add the word democratic and they use the word democracy every time they speak because they want you to think that it's your idea. It's like when you have a kid that isn't doing what you want them to do, so you have to like make them think it's their idea for them to be excited about it and do it. It's like that.
Democratic socialism is convincing 51% of people that it's okay to steal somebody else's production and then call it free. Folks, let me ask you this. Let's pretend that you work in childcare, okay? And you are now living under Maslami's brand new democratic socialist economy, where he's just promised free childcare to everybody who needs it. And you are the one providing that free childcare. Do you think that your business is going to succeed in that environment? Do you think that you working in a local school district who now has to come into work at 6 o'clock in the morning instead of 8 o'clock in the morning because suddenly someone promised that they'd have an expanded 2 hours of additional childcare for people? You realize that you are the one who's going to have to go in and do that extra work, right? You're not getting a raise. You're not going to see an increase in your own standard of living as a result of it. Only thing you're responsible for doing is providing the health care that somebody else promised because you are the means of production. And let's take that a step further. Let's say that you are the one who's providing health care or child care for a kid, and now you're mandated to stay open an extra 2 hours because you have parents that can't make it there on time because they're stuck in New York City traffic because you now have a bus system that is completely dilapidated. Guess what? You don't get to close up shop anymore because you're part of Mamdani's utopian system, because you are the means of production.
Oh, and by the way, you get to pay more taxes at the end of it too while you're done.
Oh, and you get to pay more taxes.
Except for those people that they say they don't like that are like the billionaires, like Alex Soros.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it crazy?
Alex Soros isn't paying more taxes.
Isn't it crazy how that works? How Alex Soros is posing with
No.
MAMDANI with a huge smile on his face and a thumbs up. Like, look how good we did.
Can I go back to the point that I tried to make a little bit ago about the 92% tax rate back before Reagan came into office? And everyone says, well, we just need to go back to these really high tax rates on the wealthiest Americans. The problem is the wealthiest Americans are the ones who are funding the political campaigns of these politicians who write the tax laws that create the carve-outs to allow people who hit the 92% tax bracket to only pay an 8% effective tax rate. You realize that nobody paid 92% taxes. Nobody pays 50% taxes. They all use the carve-outs that their politician buddies create for them. So unless Mamdani is going to figure out how to change tax law in the state of New York and in the federal government, nothing that he promised is going to happen, because they don't have the money for it and they can't just print it.
And then who's he going to blame?
He's going to blame Trump, and he's going to blame the governor's mansion, because he's incapable of recognizing that his policies are bullshit.
There it is right there. And then what's going to happen? All these people that are NPCs listening to MSNPC every day are going to think, oh, this is okay. We just keep electing these people like MAMDANI all across the country, and then he'll be able to make it happen, because then those governors and people in the federal government won't be there to stop him.
Look, here's the problem. We're gonna have to wrap this up here in a minute. I want to just kind of turn the ship here as we get to the finish line, if we can. The Republican Party is responsible for coming up with a way to communicate this stuff the way that I just communicated it. This is not hard to communicate, folks. It's not hard to communicate a plan and an agenda that will actually work to deal with the affordability crisis. Because what I saw happen yesterday in this election is very simple. Donald Trump's agenda was not on the ballot, and it lost. And the areas where his agenda was on the ballot, it won overwhelmingly. In Texas, with voter ID, with parental rights, was a massive red wave, because it was Donald Trump's agenda. It was the America First agenda. If we don't have Republicans who are capable or willing, maybe that's the problem, to go out and make the case that capitalism is the only system that's actually going to solve the affordability crisis, they will lose in the midterm. It's that simple. They will lose because they're not willing to have the simple conversation with people to help the American people understand that you will not solve affordability through communism. You will create an affordability crisis unlike anything we've ever seen before. You will create food lines and bread lines and gas lines, and you will have people who are forced into indentured servitude simply to keep the system running. You will have a disaster on your hands. And because the Republican Party is not willing to deal with the issue of affordability the right way, they're going to lose unless they change their tactics. This isn't hard, folks. We know what works. Lowering taxes significantly, or here's a better idea, eliminating them entirely. How about we don't pay federal income taxes anymore? How about that? How about we use a tariff system to raise enough revenue to fund a shrunk down government that makes our federal government efficient and effective? How about that?
Agreed. And how about we shrink the size and scope of the federal government, we reduce our deficit, and we give more power to the states? I would be willing to pay more money in taxes to my state government for my state government to be running a lot of the things that the federal government's running, because the federal government sucks at running stuff.
There's some other more important things that we could do. The number one reason why we have an affordability crisis in this country is because we have millions and millions and millions of illegal immigrants flooded into the country and are gobbling up the resources that the American people need, gobbling up the production that the American people require. That extra demand on the system is the reason why prices have gone up dramatically, and they're not coming down. It's because those people are still here. And if
Well,
I
you
don't
take
looking, go ahead.
Well, you take New York City for an example, right? They spent $9 billion last year on housing for all of the illegal immigrants that were shoved into that. So that's like exponential unaffordability crisis, because not only are you wasting all that tax money, but you're also gobbling up the housing. So now you've got less supply, and then you've got the government using other people's money to buy things for other people. So the government doesn't care how much money they're paying these horrifying rich landlords that are basically being bought out full capacity for ever on the taxpayers' dole. So you're creating an inflationary situation by blowing $9 billion, and you're sucking up all of the supply of housing, and everybody else's housing goes up because there's less supply and there's more demand. It's growing exponentially because these people are soaking up resources, and you're going to blame it on MAGA.
That's right. That's right. It's asinine. Here's the bottom line, folks, and we're going to have to wrap this up. The Republicans will lose the midterm unless they very quickly wake up to the reality that last night's election was not a referendum on them. It was a referendum on the insanity of the Democrat Party, because Donald Trump's policies were not on the ballot. It's that simple. You're not going to have Donald Trump on the ballot in the midterms. He's not on the ballot. He might be on the ballot in 2028.
His agenda has to be all that's on the ballot.
His agenda,
all of it,
better be front and center.
The only thing that's on the ballot.
Can I do a shameless plug really quick? Aside from making sure everybody subscribes to the channels, wherever you're watching, make sure you subscribe. If you're on X, make sure you go to PS Pod 25 and follow the Patriot Source Podcast X account. Also, make sure you go follow Data Republican. She's got a really big post she's going to be making with some research that we did today. So
SK, just say it. SK is the one who provided a lot of the information that Data Republican is going to be communicating. And Lisa, of course.
And on X, she's I am Lisa Logan. She's been on here before. You guys have seen her before if you've been around for a while. She'll be back again. What? Monday next week, you said?
Next week.
Hopefully. Yep, hopefully.
Hopefully. But sometime next week, she's going to be coming on, and you're going to want to watch for that. But this post, I've been dropping breadcrumbs for you guys for a while on this topic, but I think Data Republican's going to get it all put together and out there where it's consumable. So make sure you follow her, follow all of us, follow the Patriot Source Podcast. We have to grow that X account. And make sure you subscribe wherever you're at. Make sure you hit the follow button, the like button, share, do all the things. I suck at promotion, but you got to do it.
Now that I have all the credentials for all the things, I'm going to get the podcast X account hooked up here. I'll stumble my way through it. Just push the buttons until it works.
It's super easy. You just basically set up a destination, log in under that account, and it does it that way.
That's how the sausage is made.
Hey, can we all give NomDePlume a big old round of applause, because he just figured out how to push all the buttons and do all the dials and stuff in one day. It took me like 3 weeks to figure it out.
It's like 30 minutes. It wasn't one day. It was like 30 minutes.
Thank you, Nom, for doing all that. And I'm sorry I was a little bit absent today and didn't really prepare for this, but I was a little busy.
You did great.
Totally unhelpful today, SK, until you got on here.
I am.
So hold on. One last moral of the story, right? If what everything that PatriotDad just said about, it's the responsibility of the Republican Party, we're going to have to lead that messaging, because they do listen, right? The Trump campaign, the Trump administration, they are listening to podcasters like us. We know they are, because they do things to react to things that we're saying. It has to be us that forces that message on them, because they're not going to get it from the intelligentsia of the Republican Party. Absolutely not. It's got to come from us, from the bottom up.
Well, and here's the other thing. I'm gonna say this, and then we're done. You're running out of time, Republicans. You are running out of time, because while you guys in Congress are sitting there with your thumbs jammed up your rear ends, you have major divisions happening across the Republican Party. And maybe we'll talk about this another day.
Don't forget, they told us what they were going to do. We talked about it on this podcast. We showed receipts. They talked about it from multiple different groups, including Antifa, including other international ones. And they said they were going to use Israel as the wedge. That's exactly what they're doing. We told you that's what they were doing. That was their plan.
a vacuum abhors. That's not the right saying. If you leave an open space, someone's going to step in and take control of it. And now you have people that are doing it, and it's splintering your base, President Trump, because the Republican Party aren't doing what they are expected to do. And people are pissed. They're tired of waiting. You're running out of time. I understand that you have a timeline that you're probably not going to, it's probably not going to be adjusted, but I'm just praying that that timeline speeds up because you're running out of time. It's that simple. People are pissed and are not going to stick around for much longer unless we get some serious change in the narrative and in the tactics happening in Washington, D.C. That's it. All right, we out? We done?
We out.
Let's
wrap it up.
Let's see if we can get this video to work right. There we go.
The bullets and the punches and the riots have been flowing in only one direction for too long.
I've been trying to tell you guys this whole time how corrupt all of these things were, and here we are.
It is not our responsibility to fix something they spent years intentionally trying to destroy. Unity can only happen in a country when you have a people who agree on what the outcome should be.